Hello friends, welcome to CEC Gurukul Live Lectures. Dear friends, today once again we are going to talk in our series on entrepreneurship. Today we are going to talk on vital elements of entrepreneurship. We are going to discuss about a business process, project report and project appraisals. And for the discussion on the topic, we have with us in our studios Dr. Namita Rajput. Dr. Namita Rajput is currently principal in Sri Aurobindo Evening College, University of Delhi. Dr. Rajput is a prolific professor too. She has authored numerous books and she actively participates through various platforms, and through the platform of CEC2 she delivers the best lectures which are beneficial for the students as a whole. Friends, we know that while listening to us you might have lots of questions in mind. Feel free to talk to us through our toll-free number. Our number is 1-800-110-430. I repeat, our number is 1-800-110-430. Now I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Namita Rajput, once again. Hello, ma'am. Welcome to the lecture.
A very good morning, friends. The topic of today is business process, project reports and project appraisal. These are the key elements and the vital activities which the entrepreneur does. A business process or a business method is an assortment of connected, ordered actions or tasks. So when I say they are connected, means they are interlinked and they are dependent on each other. Because when you do a business or an entrepreneurial activities, there are so many threads which are connected together and the knots which are tied together, only then the entrepreneurial work is done. And that is why we say that it is a process. When you call it as a process, that means we have a sequence of activities which cannot be bypassed. If the first activity is to be done, then the second activity is to be done, and so on and so forth. So we have a serial of the activities which are connected through the common connected ordered actions or the task which the entrepreneur does. Not only these activities can actually produce specific service or the product, or can also serve as a specific objective for a particular customer or a particular element. So these activities, as I say, they produce a very specific service. Now, for example, the customer wants an X product. So the activities which the entrepreneur will does is that he will direct all his efforts to produce the particular activities which is custom made according to that customer's needs and wants. So, the entrepreneurial activity is one. They are a series of, connected and ordered activities together, followed by, it can be also called as a specific service to cater to a specific needs of the customers. Now coming on to the business process. The business process can be showcased through a flow chart and other visual representations with the activity sequence assorted with the specific points, decision points. Now, it can also be known and shown through the process matrix with the relevant rules specified based on the data available. In other words, the business process can also be defined as a sort of logical related business activities which are combined together to deliver a meaningful product, good service, and even the information to the customer. Now we call it the concept of the business process design. Now this is a very important activity of the entrepreneur. When you call a business process design, it is all about designing a business process in an appropriate manner, which has become a nearby nowadays, and it has also become a necessity nowadays. The business process design is a method or a way of designing an approximate and an appropriate or aligned process with the proper sequence executed for the activities in a very logical manner. In short, we can say that it involves the understanding and defining the business activities so that the organization could function in a very flexible manner. So this is all about the business process designing. The business process designing is all about designing an activity to do an activity in a very particular and an appropriate manner, and to design the business process activity has become the necessity of today. Not only this, the business process design is a method or a way of designing an appropriate and aligned process with the proper sequence executed for our activities in a very logical manner. Any activities which is illogical is not a part of this. Now, this design should be prepared following a certain, the requisites. For example, meeting customers' demand, optimizing the use of resources in an effective and an efficient manner, and supporting and sustaining the development and the growth of the organization. A properly implemented business design can usher into improving the productivity. Definitely, when you thread all the activities together in a very logical manner, in a connected manner, the output and the outcomes of this kind of a business process design will always be helping in improving the productivity of the organization as a whole. Now, coming on to the business process designing, the management process. Now, what is this? In this, the focus is on the process which governs the way the systems are managed in the organization. The management process involves the strategic management, where the strategies are charted to manage the planned and the unplanned changes which occur in an organization. The management process also involves the corporate governance, initiatives of the organizations in an ethical formulation, and integrity holds the key to the organizational performance. Now, coming on to the operational process. In this, the thrust is on the core business activities which create a primary value system. For example, for a manufacturing firm, manufacturing product and then taking a general orders from the customers can be said to be a part of the operational process of that organization. Now, what is the operation process? Operations is all about what operations are being carried out in that business activities. So, in this, the thrust is on the way the core business activities which create the primary value system stream and is in the mainline stream of the business. Like we are giving an example of the manufacturing products and then taking it into a general orders from the customers, and it can be a set of the part of the operational process of that organization. So, we have discussed till now many types of business process and design. Let me give you a recap because this is a very important activity which all the students must understand. We started with the concept of the business process, which is definitely called as a business method, which is connected and ordered in a very logical manner. Then we came on to the business process project report and the project appraisal. Basically, when you call the business process, it is shown through the process matrix and are the relevant rules specified based on the data available. In other words, the business process can also be defined as a sort of logically related business activities that are combined together to deliver the meaningful products, goods and services, and even the information to the customers. Then we came on to the concept of the management process. Now, what is this? It is all about the focus is on the process which governs the way the systems are managed in the organization. Then we gave you a concept of operational process. Now, in this type, the thrust is on basically the core activities which create the primary value system. Now, we are coming on to a very vital process which is also called as a supporting process. Now, in this, the main thrust on the support activities is there, which holds up and maintain the core activities of the business. For example, and for instance, the technical support offered for a machinery division or the accounting system. So, when these kind of supporting process is not available in the business process, the whole concept will be having hiccups in the smooth flow of the business activities. So, these supporting process, they assist the business activities in a very logical way, in a very effective manner, and it is definitely one of the prerequisites to keep the business going on a well track. Now, coming on to the location decisions. Now, when you call what is a location, for example, in entrepreneur, location decisions are very important to be right. Why it is right? It assumes the significance because the location decisions, if appropriate, there are certain theories like the Weber's theory of location given by Alfred Weber, which talks about the proximity of the source of the raw material, the labor, and also the proximity of the final customers to the place of the manufacture. These factors generally determine the location of the industry. Now, you would say that when you talk about the location decisions, they are so important because certain things are very, the concept of the raw material, if they are very, very heavy, so the industry location should be near the source. And if the concept of the raw material which is to be used in the industry is very light, then it should be near the proximity of the customers. So if these are very important decisions to be made, and they are at the core heart of the business operations, and they play a very significant pivotal role in the success road of the business. Now, what is the economic criteria which is followed before the final selection of a place? When you have to select a location or a place, there are so many decisions which have to be taken, which are so important, which are definitely very instrumental in taking a final decisions of the place. So when you decide which place will suit you, will depend upon the cost factor, and will definitely depend upon the location of your customers, the location of the raw material, etc. So all these things have to be taken in one frame, and only then the effective and the final decisions could be taken. So I'll give an example. The places which are already economically advanced and are all necessary inputs are available, for example, agglomeration. In such places, setting up of an industry becomes a complementary and comparatively easier in that place, because your efforts are next to nil, because everything is conglomerated and it is definitely in place. But if you think about vice versa, where the things are not available, they are not agglomerated, they are scattered. So then, of course, the things have to be imported, placed in order, and then, of course, the decisions would be taken. Now, the next important decisions which is taken is a layout decisions. Now, in an industry setup, when you talk about the layout decisions, it depends upon the specification required for a particular type of manufacturing. The plant layouts are generally considered a very important decisions at the industry in an effective utilization of resources and facilities. It includes an effective and most economical arrangements, and definitely the usage thereof of the machinery, materials, personnel, supporting activities, and the storage spaces, etc. Now, when within the available floor space, etc., in general, the plant layouts are of three types. The product layout. So first we'll talk about the product layout. Now, in this, the emphasis is on the product to be manufactured. The requisite process and the machines thereof for manufacturing the product lie in a very specific sequence, such that the raw material are being fed at one end and the final finished product are manufactured at the other end. So that was the plant layout. Coming on to the process layout. In this type of emphasis is given on the functions performed by the machines. All the machines performing a similar kind of functions are grouped at one place. All basically all the lathes, the welding machines, the drilling machines, the assembly inspections, the shipping and receiving, paintings, etc. This type of layout is also called as a functional layout. Now we are coming on to a very important business process decisions about the combination layout. Now the above two layouts are somewhat impractical as of now. The real practice of the layout is a combination of the layouts. In this, there are combination of the product and the process layout, because you cannot take the independent, standalone decisions which is only depending upon the product layout or which is only depending upon the process layout. So the realistic decisions is basically a combination of the both, that is the product layout and the process layout. Now the layout according to the function is laid in an earlier stages of manufacture of the product. For example, the stamping, welding, etc., the final assembly is done in the product type of layout. What is the planning and control? In order to get a successful business plan, and working intentionally and thoughtful planning should be in a place to determine the function of the business process. The proper emphasis should be laid upon planning, the measurement, governance, and the management of the business process. It also involves certain specifications for the business process with the purview of the business objectives. Now, the caveats in this regard are understanding, planning and creating the guidelines to gauge the workflows, the process to apply the rules in place, successful implementation of the business applications, technological platforms, the data resources, financial and operation controls, the mechanism and the interpretations of the internal and the external process in a very important business setup. Now, in the same essence, the monitoring and controlling operations by aligning the organizational performance and the business process of utmost importance. The business process objectives are met through the measurement of monitoring, controlling, and thereby adjusting the resources to meet the objectives of the business process. Now, after the preparation of the business plan by evaluating a business idea, the next step is to garner the financial support, which is in fact the star need of the business. Unless and until you have immense and good amount of resources or a financial support, you cannot move on and you cannot have any kind of a mileage. For bringing in the financial support, an entrepreneur requires to submit a detailed project report which will cover the following basic aspects. The first and the foremost preparation of the business report is as follows. The first and the most important vital information which is to be a part of the project report is about the information about the promoters of the enterprise, the information about the basic objectives of the enterprise, the information about the product and the process involved, the information about the capacity to support an endeavor. Now, when you are preparing a business report, you have to add to your project report that what is the possible location of the enterprise, what are the basic size of investments you are doing, and the estimated cost of the project, availability of the finances, how would you do all sorts of technical arrangements, the information about the future and the present market prospects and potentials. So, this is a very detailed project report which you have to submit. You have to also give, because nowadays we have a very important concern for the environment, the pollution, because unless and until you address to the environmental concerns, you will not get any kind of a clearance from the Ministry of Environment, from the Pollution Control Board and the allied bodies which are mandatory, and you have to have the clearance before you start any kind of a business. So, you have to give all types of information and about the environmental concerns, how much carbon is to be emitted from your project, is it polluting the environment, if there is any waste, what are you doing with that waste, are you addressing it in a very scientific manner, or you are taking care of that how you are going to take up the environmental pollution issues. If the bodies, the concerned bodies are happy with your addressing of the environmental issues, they would give you a clearance and then you can move ahead with your project. So, this is one of the most primary thing which you have to address, because we do not have any planet B. We have to clean and conserve and sustain the environment. So, keeping these kind of a vision, that is, you have to have an eco-friendly vision to whatever kind of activities you want to undertake or whatever kind of activities you want to do. The next is your profitability projections and the cash flows. You have to be very specific about how much profits you are going to generate out of your business, and what are your projections in relation to cost and the benefit analysis, the cost and the profits, the expenditure part, the profitability part, the inflows, from where the cash is going to come in, from where the cash is going to go out, that is the cash flow statements, the projections about the detailed profitability issues and aspects relating to your project. Now, after preparing the management part or the preparation of the project report, you have to do the management evaluation. What is that? You have to prepare a memorandum and the articles of association. Memorandum gives you an outside boundary according to which the company would be governed, and the articles of association will always hint and sign upon the internal rules and the regulations according to which the concern will be governed. You have to have the object, authorized, paid up share capital. What is the promoter's contribution is very important. You have to have a constitution and the management of the industrial concerns. Not only this, the present and the proposed composition of the board of directors, the borrowing powers, the list of directors of the board, the term of the appointment of the directors, the details, the full-time directors and the details of the responsibilities which they have to fulfill. Not only this, what is the chief executive and the functional executives. The next part is very important, that is the technical feasibility relating to it. The technology and the manufacturing process. You have to have a novel technology, that is a new technology which you have to use. What is the basic of selection of your technologies? Is it a green technology? Is it a clean technology? And how it is different from the technologies which has been used earlier. You have to actually compete with the technologies, perform the data of the plants based on the technology. Then you have to have a licensed documents which are also important in this regard. Now coming on to the technical feasibility of the project. You have to see the location of the project. What are the advantages based on the location? You have to see, and before you decide the location, you have to see that are the inputs available, is the raw material and other resources available, is there any crunch? If there is any crunch, you have to simply reject that location, because this is the heart of the project. This is the heart of the business. If the inputs, that is the raw material, power, resources, living, non-living are not available, then that particular location is of no use. And with no time, it has to be rejected completely. Then coming on to the infrastructure and the other agglomerative facilities, they should also be available, because it gives a good mileage for any kind of a business you want to set up. You have to see the labor availability, because India is a labor intensive country, and you have the best advantage, the cost effectiveness, which is centering around the labor. So you have to see whether there is no crunch of the labor and it is available and abundance. Next, we have to see that what are the basic addresses relating to the clearance of the environment. You must have the clearance, because I told you in the beginning also, because nowadays the environmental clearances are essential, because in no case any technology which is carbonizing the economy will be allowed, because you have so many carbon footprints. In fact, it should be substituted with the sustainable footprints, which is definitely going to contain the environment. As a matter of fact, we all have a corporate social responsibility, the individual social responsibility to take care of the environment. So whatever technology you're using, whatever resources you're using, the outcome of that should not be to pollute the environment at any cost. Now, after deciding, when you talk about the technical feasibility about the location of the project, the next vital issue which you have to take up is your plant and machinery issue. You have to list all the machinery and equipment. You have to see the details of the supplies, competitive quotations, technical and commercial evaluation of the major equipment, the raw material, utilities and the manpower, the project monitoring and implementation. You have to see the mode of implementation, the details of monitoring team, the detailed schedule of implementation. The environmental aspect, do we call it as air, water, soil pollution, list of pollutant, hazardous substances, their safety and handling of affluent disposable arrangements, compliance with the national and international standards, clearance and no objection certificates which are required and obtained, etc. Now we are coming on to again a very important concept of the commercial viability. The proposed products existing and potential, the market demand and supply, the proposed projects share forecasted and analyzed with respect to the market, the manufacturing cost analysis, the sale price of the proposed product, export potential analysis. Now we are coming to a very pertinent part, that is the financial feasibility. Financial feasibility is most important because wherever you have to start anything, the main thing which you require is a finance. So you have to first build up the project cost analysis, a detailed analysis relating to a particular project which you are going to start. You have to see the operating cost and the profits which is associated with that project, the operational performance and the financial evaluation, the financing capital requirements, the working capital requirements, projections of profitability, projected income statements and the balance sheets, the cash flow estimates. Now when you talk about the financial feasibility, let me give you a detailed insight of what it is. This is a very important step as it leads to a successful delivery of the information to external agencies and the financial and the non-financial institutions. There is always a limited amount of time available and there is a lot of information to be processed. So the project submission of the presentation should be very crisp to the point. The project submissions and the presentations. This type of brevity in reports could lead to a favorable decision making on the part of the agencies in question. For a suitable submission review, the entrepreneur should ensure the reason for being out of the report, the terms of the reference, expectations of the project report, the target audience of the report, etc. The project submission or presentation, they are known and drafted very carefully. In order to maximize the effectiveness of the project submission, maximum reader insight and the maximum reader effort should be emphasized upon. Now in this presentation, the speaker should demonstrate the familiarity with the project, emphasizing on the project goals, the project assumptions, the flow chart to maximize the impact onto the audience. The contents of the project report, which we have already discussed in the previous section, should be highlighted in a very, succinct manner to add to this list the special features such as introduction of the product for the first time, innovation in the technology, the factors influencing the selection of the project should also be included. Now you have to do the project submission and the presentations. The project presentations should also include the benefits. What are benefits? The social and economic, which could be derived it in the region. The project appraisal. As the first step in the project appraisal, it is examined prima facie that whenever the project is acceptable under certain rules which could be experience and background of the applicant, the potential demand of the product, whether the project is meeting the governmental requirements and the status or not. Now we are coming on to the appraisal from the external agencies and the financial agencies. In the context of the financial external agencies appraising the project, their point in the connection is to look upon the credit appraisal. Now in this, before a credit facility is provided to the entrepreneur, the proposal is checked very rigorously. It involves in depth the study of all the feasibility aspects studied earlier, the financial, technical, commercial, managerial, etc. Now generally, in order to sanction the amount, it is very prudent for the banks and other financial institutions to assess the data provided by the entrepreneur in an unbiased manner. So, when we started with the concept of the project submission and the presentation, let me give you, some kind of a feedback and some kind of a recap in this regard. When your project is complete, you need to submit it and you need to present it. Now, the entrepreneurial work is, it has to be seen from the other's point of view, how the external agencies are going to rate it, how the banks are going to rate it, because it involves a lot of money. So, this type of brevity in the reports could lead to a favorable decision making on the part of the agencies in question. And for a suitable submission, the entrepreneur should ensure the reason for bringing out the report, the terms of the reference, the expectations from the project report, the outcomes of the report, the target audience of the report. Now, they are also, when you have to make a presentation, it has to be very properly drafted, effectively shown. Submission has to be, according to a particular manner. It has to be emphasized as far as the cost factor is concerned, the project goals are concerned, assumptions are concerned, the cash flows are concerned, because they are going to matter a lot. So, the presentation should highlight these key points, and if they are not highlighted, of course, the agencies who are going to rate it will have a lot of issues and a lot of problems. So, you should be very crystal clear in your presentation of the reports, and only then it will be evaluated by the external agencies. The contents of the project report, which has already been discussed in the previous section, should be highlighted in a very succinct manner, and you have to list all the features, why you are going for a product, how the technology you are using, why you are using, if you are using a X particular project, why you are using, and so on and so forth. You have to reason out, you have to be very crystal clear about as far as the presentation and the reporting part is concerned. Now, the project presentation should also be included the benefits which could be derived from a particular region. Now, what is a project appraisal? As the first step in the project appraisal, it is examined prima facie that whether the project is acceptable under certain rules and the regulations, which could be experiment and the background of the applicant, the potential demand of the product, whether the project is meeting the government regulations or not and the statutes or not. See, the standalone decision is not taken. Appraisal means what? You have to see a particular project which you want to initiate from all the various angles, diverse angles. You have to fulfill all the diverse angles, the government angle, the demand angle, the customer's angle, the background, the experience, the nature, the type of the product which you are into. So, all these things have to be very diligently appraised, and only then the project is viable for the selection, for the final selection, and only then the production will be made. Now is the time for the appraisal from the external agencies, the financial agencies, because these things involve a lot of money. So, a strong angle, that is the appraisal from the external agencies, is done in a very diligent manner. In the context of the financial external agencies, the appraising the project, their point is of the contention is to look for a credit appraisal. In this, before a credit facility is provided to the entrepreneur, the proposal is checked out very rigorously. It involves an in-depth study of the feasibility aspects studied earlier, the financial, technical, commercial and managerial, etc. Generally, in order to sanction an amount, it is very prudent for the banks and other financial institutions to assess the data provided by the entrepreneur borrowers in an unbiased manner. This assessment can further be done by the financial institutions by outsourcing the data gathered. The exercise to the independent agencies, because the borrowers could tamper or favorably place the data to suit their own needs. Now, basically the credit appraisal is the most important content as far as the external agencies appraisal is done, because the project report is done by the customer, the data is collected by the customer or the borrower. Now, he has projected what he wanted to, he has expressed what he wanted to, he has expressed the type of money he needs, etc. So, when it is done from a particular angle, so now is the time to test the other angle, whether whatever he has projected, whatever he has written I hope they are not tempered from any angle. So this is the nuance of doing the external agencies appraisal, because they want to be very clear about the persons who are giving them loans should be safe enough as far as their recovery is concerned or their solvency is concerned, whether they will be able to service the loans which they have taken or not. So this is one step which has to be very prudently done, very diligently done, and lot of efforts are needed, sincere efforts are needed to unfold the intentions of the borrowers in this case, so that the money goes in the right hands and they are also recovered in time, because otherwise this will be a total financial loss for the lenders. Although it will be a win-win situation it is only a win situation for the borrower, not for the lender, because if they are lying in terms of the credit appraisal or the type of the data they have inputted or the kind of manipulations they have done. So you have to be very careful as an external agencies to do the credit rating, the credit appraisal in a very diligent fashion. The loan appraisal by the financial institutions and the banks require a very careful scrutiny of the highest level, because if there is anything which is unleft or which is untouched, it can really create havocs. Now the problems which are related to the non-performing assets, which have made the scenario worse for the banking sector, and hence a proper loan appraisal is a must. After the advent of the Narsimham committee, the concept came because the non-performing assets are mounting in the Indian economy and the Indian banking sector. Now this problem of non-performing assets can be because of the poor management of the loans or non-scrutiny of the loans, and could be because of the priority lending in case of the public sector banks. There are so many reasons behind it, but yes, you have to be very particular about the appraisal part, otherwise you are contributing nothing but to the mounting levels of the non-performing assets. So what are they doing? They are just increasing the cost, they are just decreasing the profits, and the provisioning cost, the loss cost, or the amount which has to be used to cover up that non-performing assets is only done. So the basic purpose of the credit appraisal is not met if the non-performing assets issues are not scrutinized in a proper manner. The loan appraisal signifies the capability of the borrower to repay the principal loan amount and basically the interest thereof in the period specified. Now basically when you talk about the non-performing loans, so it is very important for the basic concept of the borrowers to undertake the responsibility of the loans and the non-performing assets. So the whole concept of the overall feasibility aspects, be it financial, technical, appraisal, all things have to be very diligently done. The project report has to be diligently devised, and if it is not done, of course the problems could be immense, and the areas would be grey. So now I am coming on to the areas of the project appraisal. The first is your marketing appraisal. In the marketing appraisal, the emphasis is on sanctioning of the demand projections of the business under pursual. The examination of whether the demand projections are in tune with the ground realities is done. Furthermore, the adequacy of the marketing infrastructure is basically assessed by gauging the distribution network, the transport facility, the stock levels, the promotion efforts, etc. Now we are coming on to the areas of the project appraisal. The key marketing managerial personnel are also judged for their level of competencies, the skills required to get the job done. Now, what is a technical appraisal? In this, the focus is on the technical aspects. It is basically the appraisal of the technical feasibility ascertained by the entrepreneur. In this, the overall appraisal of the technology and the manufacturing process, the location, decisions relating to plant and machinery, the decisions relating to raw material and other inputs is done. Now we are coming on to the managerial appraisal. The promoter's resourcefulness check, whether they will be able to generate the resources or not, the credibility of the planned project, assessment of the organizational structure, estimated cost of the project, commitment of the promoters towards the work, assessment of the caliber of the key technical and the managerial personnel. Now coming on to the managerial competence. In the managerial competence appraisal, the focus is on evaluating the level of competence of the people at the helm of the affairs. The question is whether the management has the insight and ability to pull off the project. Not only this, the emphasis is also on the determinants of the availability of the people to implement and carry on the business in a very desired manner. Now, a very important analysis is all about the ecological analysis. Nowadays, it has taken up so much of importance, a specific importance, and the eco-analysis is a part of the project appraisal, and nowadays it has assumed a specific importance. With the glaring problems when you talk about the global warming, the climate change, the attention is in those industries, the pharmaceutical, the chemicals, the leather processing, etc., which do not have any adverse impact on the environment. The key questions raised in the ecological analysis are: could the project have an adverse effect on the environment? What are the remedial measures, if any, if they have been suggested or not? Will the project be compatible with the government regulations and the statutes or not? So now I am coming on to the summary part of my lecture. The business process or the business method is an assortment of the actions of the task. You have to be very particular about the assortment part, the actions, because when you talk about the business, the concept is all about interrelationship, interdependence, independence, etc. The business process design is a method or way of designing a aligned process with the proper sequence executed for the facilities and the activities in a very contended, ordered, appropriate and a very logical manners. So all these things have to be seen in one line, like the project has to be a method, number one. It is a process design, number two. You have to be very particular about the design, the proper sequencing of the activities. They have to be connected, one. They have to be ordered in a very logical manner, appropriate and a logical manner. The business process can be of three types: the management process, operational process, supporting process. These processes, they support the business activities, be it a management, be it operational, be it supporting. The management process helps in managerial process activities. The operational process also helps in the operational part. Supporting process also helps in supporting the process, like the technical support, the accounting support, the infrastructure support, etc. So they also have independently an equal technical assistance and the benefits to be taken care of. The location decisions are also very important. You cannot take a standalone decisions, okay, I can start my business here. There are so many ifs and buts, there are so many factors associated and linked and which they further the decisions of the location. One thing you have to see is the availability of the raw material, the proximity to the market, the weight of the raw material to be used, the agglomerative factors, the deglomerative factors, the supply of the labor, the supply of the machinery, the economic factors, the social factors, the political factors. All these factors, the governmental rules and the regulations which are linked with that. So the decision making as far as the location is a very prime decision because it involves a lot of cost. It depends upon the success of the easy availability of the industry, and of course the connectivity of the various supply, agglomerative, deglomerative and other factors which are linked and associated with these decisions. Now coming on to the layout decisions. The layout decisions includes an efficient and a most economical arrangements and the usage thereof of the machines, materials, personal supporting activities and the storage spaces within the availability of the floor space. In order to get a successful business plan up and working, the intentional and thoughtful planning should be in place to determine the functioning of the business process. After we prepare the business plan, by evaluating the business ideas, the next step is to garner the financial support. Now, in the preparation of the project report, an entrepreneur requires to provide the information regarding the manufacturing evaluation, the technical feasibility, the environmental aspects, the commercial viability of the project, and the financial feasibility, etc. So, the last leg of this is the project proper project submission, and the presentation thereof is very important step, as it leads to a successful delivery of the information to an external agencies and the financial and the non-financial, the institution. So, with these words, I think the concept of the the overall project process planning, etc., is very clear to you. So, there are few more points which I would like to highlight, that these are the prime activities of an entrepreneur, be it a business process, be it a project report, be it a project appraisal. All the key factors, all the concepts, they have to be taken in one frame, and then the decisions would be taken, because they are very specific. Nowadays, the project can be customized because it can also cater to the specific needs of the customers. You can showcase by the flow charts, the visual presentations, and you have to be, sequence, you have to show in the presentation a proper logical sequence of the assorted decisions which are taken in this regard. And of course, the project appraisal has many angles which we have discussed at length, and they are all instrumental in getting the success of the entrepreneurial activities.
Thank you so much for giving us this a very, very productive session where we discussed about business process, project report and project appraisal. First of all, we would like to ask you why these elements are considered to be very important when we talk about entrepreneurship.
See, nowadays when you talk about the entrepreneurial work, it is a collection of all the tasks together. So the first thing which an entrepreneur does is the assortment of the the connected, ordered, and the task of a particular task, and these activities can actually produce a very specific product, and it can also have a customization of this, because nowadays we have a trend of customization or the custom made service. So these entrepreneurial activities can also be very successful for a very particular customer or the task, and not only this can also produce a very well sequencing of the assorted activities to take the right kind of decisions.
Now, ma'am, we want to know about the concept of business process so that our students could be more aware of these.
So, when you talk about the business process, any process has a step of activities, like we have, when you talk about nursery, and then only you can go to KG, and then eventually you can rise up to the ladder, up to the class 12. Similarly, whenever we call it as a process, so process has a sequence of activities which cannot be bypassed from one activity to the other. When you talk about the business process, it is basically you have to connect all the activities in a very logical manner, in a very sequencing manner, and only then your specific objectives can be fulfilled in this regard. So you have to have a particular matrix, you have to have a particular ladder, the data availability, the logical steps which you have to follow, the designing of the business process is very important in this regard. Like what method would you follow, which is the appropriate method, which is very important in this regard. And the design should be having a proper logical flow charts, so that you understand that this is the first step, this is the second step, this is the third step, and so on and so forth. So we have a certain business process which helps in the business activities. Similarly, we have certain operational process which helps in the operations, like the production or the manufacturing part. And then similarly, when you talk about the supporting process, we have certain supporting activities which uphold the activities in a very logical manner, in a very supporting manner. Like we have the infrastructure facilities, we have certain this IT facilities, we have accounting facilities. So unless these facilities are not there, these processes are not there, we will not be able to take up any kind of entrepreneurial activity.
Why it is so important to have a project reports? What important part they play?
See, when you are initiating, because the things start when you have a basic business idea in front of you. So this business idea, you have to project, because when you have to start a business, you need money, you need finances. So you have to take a lot of clearances. So this project report, you have to make in a very enriched fashion, taking all various angles into view. Like, you have to first prepare your business plan, and business plan comes from the business idea. The business ideas are transmitted in the business plans, and then business plans have to be transmitted into a business report. So for bringing any kind of a financial support, the person must know how viable your project is, and what of course, you have to give all the detailed information about who the promoters are, what are the specific objectives of your project, what products you're going to start, what is the capacity, what is the location, what is the size of investments you're looking for, the estimated cost, the estimated financial help, how would you do the technical arrangements, what information about the future market, how potential, whether your project is having a potential or not, from where the money is going to come in, your cash flow statements, your profitability projections, your internal and external rules, that is the memorandum, the articles, the constitution of your present and proposed technology to be used, whether you're using a novel technology, green technology, clean technology, the location, the plant and machinery, the raw material, the environmental concerns, etc. So this has to be in a report.
Now, last not but the least, in this whole process, does project appraisals really plays a vital role in the further enhancement?
Okay. When you talk about the project appraisal, this is done by the external agencies or the banks or certain allied agencies which are delegated this kind of a work specifically. Now, for example, I'm an entrepreneur. I have collected all the material, made my project report, and collected the data as per my wishes, because it is me who wants the money. But see from the other's angle, that is the lender. The lender has to satisfy himself whether the information which is being projected by the entrepreneur is correct or not. So they would verify in their own words, in certain closed languages, in certain closed questions, from the outside report, from the consultants, from the external agencies, and if they are completely satisfied with the kind of report he has submitted, only then they would grant the money. So before they grant the money, the most important thing after evaluating the concept which we have already discussed with you, the environmental issues, because nowadays we have loud and big concerns for the global warming. So any technology which is decarbonizing the economy, polluting the economy, or increasing the carbon footprints will never be allowed, because banks are now called as the indirect polluters because they extend loan. So before they extend loans, they have to see the clearances of the environment. If they are completely satisfied in this regard, only then the funds should be given to them.
We have discussed in detail about the business process, project report and project appraisal in detail today. What else are we going to study in the forthcoming session?
The forthcoming sessions would be certain important external agencies, certain specific project reports we will discuss, certain case studies we will discuss, and the overall entrepreneurial activities, and those who wants to come into a startup of the entrepreneurial activities will be very useful for them, because they have sequencing of everything in front of them, what specific steps they have to take up. The first step which they have to take up is they have to think about the novel ideas, because the ideas can change your life.
Definitely, and with this idea that we continuously makes in practice to you, that we bring for you different lectures on different subjects. Different believe that you might have gathered lots of information, lots of knowledge through today's session. If you have any question in mind, feel free to write to us at info.cec@nic.in. Here you can post your questions as well as your feedbacks too regarding this entire series on entrepreneurship, as well as regarding today's lecture too. Friends, we are taking you leave with the promise that we are going to meet again tomorrow and would be discussing more. Thank you for watching CC Gurukul Live Lectures. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again.